Welcome to Parenting Playbook. My name is Azizi Williams, and I'm the head of Children's Community School. In this podcast, I invite my early childhood education colleagues to share their top 3 pieces of wisdom or strategies related to common early childhood obstacles. Today, I'm sitting down with Christie Brendel, the director of the Maggy Haves School. Christie began at Maggy Haves as a parent and then transitioned to teaching in 2008. Christie received her master's in early childhood education from Pacific Oaks and was promoted to director of the preschool in 2020. In this episode, we discuss the important role conflict plays in childhood, and we share reminders to help parents navigate conflict at home. Enjoy. Hi, welcome to Parenting Playbook. I'm here with Christie Brendel, and she is the director of the Maggy Haves School. Welcome, Christie.
Hi, Azizi. Nice to see you.
So nice to see you. Thank you for joining us. We're here to talk about navigating conflict.
Love it.
A good juicy topic.
I hate it. No, that's right. No, they're starting the conflict too soon.
I'm sure already many parents have been thinking about this or been challenged by this. And so I just have a few questions for you.
Beautiful.
First of all, what led you to working with children? Tell me about your journey.
Right. Well, I'm a mother of 2 adult children, and you know how they can do and changing the course of your life. So I was a parent here at the Maggy Haves School with my oldest son. He came in when he was 3.5. He's 28 now.
Wow.
And so I met Maggy Haves herself when I was a parent and was immediately struck, by what a child advocate she was. And so that journey with my oldest and then 4 years later with my younger son really did change the way I parent, changed the way I thought about children, our family. And when they graduated, I was lost. No, I wanted to stay connected. It really had become such an important part, really, really impactful. And when they needed a teacher, I was able to get what I needed to, as far as units and things like that, education, to start being a teacher here. And then, that lifelong learning, we're not kidding about that, right? So even though I came to it late, I switched gears and became an educator and continued to take classes and ended up getting my master's. And so I've been a teacher here since 2008 and then became the director in 2020. So
wow! So you never left. You were so
teacher,
involved.
and then director. But it's a blessing. I'm really feel fortunate to be here, and it's new and different. You know how it is with children. It can be exciting and also predictable in the ways that we know we want to support children. And so it's really great to be able to connect with parents that way in such a precious time in their lives.
Yes.
When you're just sort of figuring out your way.
You get the brand new parents that are
right, because we have a toddler program too. So
wow.
we do the toddler and me, and and it's wonderful that they find community, right? So those like-minded people are just people that are in there with it, in there with you at that same time, whether it be potty training or sleep training or just all that stuff. So yeah.
So Christie, tell me about Maggy Haves. What can you share about your program?
Right. So she started the school in 1976. She had been an educator before. She actually worked at this school where we are on the property now. So we're getting ready to celebrate 50 years.
Wow. Congratulations.
That's great. Right. And so she was a Holocaust survivor, a civil rights activist. She took her twin 4-year-olds to Africa with the Peace Corps. Right.
Wow.
Let's just stop and think about that for a minute.
I can't even imagine getting on a plane with one 4.5-year-old.
Right. So
oh my goodness.
I'm so glad to have gotten to know her. And then she trained me when I became a teacher. So she was such, like I said, an advocate for children, really respected children. Her favorite poem is that, I have it over here on framed, the Khalil Gibran right?
Yes.
Art on children, right?
Yes.
And the first line is, right, they came from you, but they're not yours.
Yes, your children are not your children.
Exactly. That separateness and that respect, they are not less than because they are, not adults yet.
Mm.
So that just seeing that value in children at every step. So that was something that was clear right away. And then for me as a parent, I came to her with, probably looking back now, something very typical
Mm.
that goes on for parents of young children. I think it was something like, my son didn't want to get dressed in the morning.
Mhm.
And, but I remember I was emotional about it. I felt,
Mm.
like I was really struggling. I wasn't getting it right.
Yes.
And she sort of stopped and wanted to know what was going on with me. She was like, what's this now?
Mm.
With her little
Mhm.
French accent. And she wanted to check in with me first. And I wanted to be like, well, what's the answer? What,
Right.
what
Fix
do I
this.
say?
Mhm.
Right. And isn't that tricky? Because we all want to know, well, if I just said this particular set of words,
Right.
disorder, won't that, well, I told you,
Yes.
right? But it's not that way, right? So she wanted to check in with me and where I was, and kind of that adage or whatever, get put your mask on first, and then you'll be
Yes.
able to help the others. Same idea, she
Yes.
had to check in on me
Mm.
in a way that was always child first. So
Mhm.
that was really, really amazing, and continues to this day to really think about. Not answering quickly, right? And really finding out
Yes.
maybe what it is, because like, you're going to talk about in everything that we talk about is behavior is a communication, whatever it is, make sure that we're getting behind that behavior
Mhm.
and finding out, what's really what's going on in a family's life, in outside the family. What are the children aware of? What are they not aware of? What do they need to know? What do they not need to know? Maybe all of that
Mhm.
in that lens for Maggie to really, her vision and the mission of the school is to, if children grow up knowing that their thoughts and their feelings and their ideas have value, right? And that, so emergent curriculum comes from that, but that problem
Right.
solving, that listening to one another, conflict negotiation, being able to have that social justice piece. But if they're an immediate part of that and feel valued in their home as well as in their school group, their
Mhm.
classroom, then they're going to be the ones that can grow up into like responsible stewards of the world. They're going to know that they're
Absolutely.
right. They're able to make positive change. So that was her goal. Right. It was a good goal in 1976. I was saying it's a good goal now. Right.
And we won't get into it, but our schools have so much history,
Correct.
and the foundings and the ethos, the mission, the values are
Right.
all right
I love
there,
and I
very
love that
much.
consistency and continuity and these
Yes.
tenets, right? These foundational tenets. Yeah.
And I love your focusing on curiosity, being curious
Right.
about those behaviors and what leads to it. That's of
Right.
course
Right. Right. Right.
the most important value in problem solving. So tell me, we're here to talk about conflict. And I know that no one ever has any conflicts, at Maggie Haves.
Oh,
All
I
the
hope not.
students
I
get
hope they
along
do.
all the
I hope they
time.
do. I was just talking about that with a parent that, there's just no substitute for practicing that
Right.
conflict negotiation. Otherwise, conflict negotiation or problem solving in theory is not a thing. It has to be worked through and
Yes.
normalized and the skills growing that way. And, so that each little incident like that isn't the be all end all.
Hmm.
We're all growing, and it's going to switch sides, and one child may need to tell another child that wasn't okay with me. Tomorrow that child may have to hear that from somebody else. So
Yeah.
all of that is, we welcome it,
So
right?
what are some other ways that conflict shows up at Maggie Haves or at the
You know,
school?
depending on the age, we to think about toddlers or into the threes. Those children are pretty egocentric
Mm.
to start, and that it makes sense for them.
Hmm.
So to just like any relationship, to have expectations that are reasonable, right?
Hmm.
It's gonna prove to be more successful. So if we know that that's where children are developmentally, then asking them to share doesn't make any sense, right? So we talk a lot about taking turns as
Right.
opposed to sharing, right?
Okay.
Because I don't cognitively, I as a young child, I don't really understand somebody else's point of view. I'm
Hmm.
learning to do that, and there's practice. It doesn't mean that they just run roughshod over everybody else. That doesn't mean that, but there's a way to solve that. In when I'm all done with it, then you can have a turn, right? You're
Yes.
honoring
Yes.
each other, right? So hearing each other's idea, and then that empathy is growing, and of course we're modeling that empathy while it's going, and that's just growing. So um, uh, as they're getting more and more connected to their peers, then their problem solving motivation changes a little bit too. Like, because I want to be a part of this play scenario. I want
Right.
to have these play partners. So maybe I'm a little bit more willing to collaborate or hear another point of view, right? We're playing family and we already have a little sister and you want to be the little sister too. A teacher might be nearby and would facilitate by saying something like, well, how many sisters, are there in the game, and who's the
Mm,
decider of the game? And oh, you want to
mm-hmm.
be the decider and you want to be the decider. What should we do about that? Again, not solving the problem for them, letting them
Mm-hmm.
see and practice the possibility that they are the problem solvers. Um, and then that just continues to grow. So there's that conflict negotiation here at school, but then of course there's conflict between siblings
Right.
too, that I know parents are thinking about. And again, that's something we think about if that's ongoing. And that's certainly not going to be a short list of
The
conflicts.
lifelong practice.
Right. So knowing that, then there's a piece of it that might have to do with the parent relationship or the special time that you're able to dedicate to one child over the other. So it might not have anything to do with the other sibling. It might have to do with some connection that maybe needs a little nurturing. From the adults around too. So it's tricky, right?
I really appreciate how you talked about where the child is developmentally when they are younger, two-ish. They are egocentric. The concept of sharing is well beyond something that
Right,
they can understand. But
right,
you said taking turns. You can understand one person has something and then another person has
right.
something, but not framing it as sharing until they become invested in having relationships with others,
Right.
and then
And they will get
yeah.
interested. In the toddler group, it's often we sing a song about boo-boos, and often that's where we will start to see them interest in, first they always want to tell their own story. And then
Mhm.
there's like maybe an ongoing boo-boo or something, we're gonna check on our peers, see how it's healing. And you can
Yes.
see their like empathy grow and their connection to one
Wow.
another, right? Because they want to come and check and see how your boo-boos are doing, and then,
Mhm. That's like a very visceral, I know what that feels like.
right? Which kind of band-aid do you have on, and all of that.
Right.
So those shared
And
experiences,
then they
right?
get invested in the other person's
Absolutely.
feelings. Well,
Absolutely.
thank you so much. So, Christy, we're going to take a quick break, and when we'll come back, we'll hear your 3 strategies for navigating conflict.
Excellent.
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm gonna check what my three strategies are,
Go
because
ahead.
they kind of blend into um, how you said, just three things that kind of just help, like just it didn't have to be about conflict, but just strategies or tips, right?
Yes.
And so I was thinking, the piece of it, because I kind of spoke a little bit to it, like respecting your children.
Yeah.
But I think, with conflict specifically, I can talk about modeling that calm, naming the feelings, right?
Yeah.
And then that kind of leads into slowing down, and that was my takeaway also from Maggie, to slow down. You don't have to answer every question,
I
right
think
away.
that's brilliant. I
Yeah.
think that's a great thing to say.
Right. Sometimes we think we
Takes
have
a
to
lot of
have
pressure
audience.
off.
Right. That's true.
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
true.
it's okay if the 3 strategies are a repeat of things that you've already talked about. That's
Okay.
completely fine. We're just
Right.
putting a bow on it.
Okay. I'm gonna look at it.
And so I'll ask you what the first one is, and then what the second one is, and then what the third one is. And then I'll ask you about another tool or strategy.
Okay.
Just let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay, great. Okay, we're back and we're talking about conflict. I'm here with Christie Brendel, the head of I'm here with Christie Brendel, the director of Maggy Haves, and we're talking about conflict. So, Christy, what are your 3 pieces of advice or 3 strategies to support parents in navigating conflict?
Yeah, I think the first one, if you can, is people talk a lot about co-regulation, and there's lots of talk about that. So I think people might, know what I mean when I say that. But it's basically, see if you can find your calm
Hmm.
when you want to move forward with your child, and we can talk about depending on how old or whatever the conflict is, whether you're having to get in between two kids or there's conflict about between an adult and a child, or what something your child wants to do. um, it's important is if your child is escalating, you want to stay calm.
Mhm.
So model that right away. And those boundaries of staying calm are something that you'll model, and then your child will realize that that's important for them to have as they grow their strategies
Mm.
and their coping strategies, is that they can find that calm. So we've talked about if your child is or children, and they're in the moment and it's really kind of escalated, that's not the time to talk a lot. You have to wait until those conversations can land,
Find
right?
the time when you can be calm and when they
Exactly,
can be
right?
calm.
The window is
Mhm.
closed, right? So you know that
Mhm.
so that, more often than not, I come back to thinking like talking less and kind of reading the room first and finding out
Mm.
first. So finding your call and then be able to see, kind of like we talked about before, what that expression that they are telling you. We're going to get have the chance with the younger ones to name the feeling, which is
Mhm.
valuable, right? So you
Mhm.
want to, if there's conflict between two people, you're so mad that she took your toy, right? It's something like that, you really didn't like that. And the through line is all feelings are okay to have, and you
Mhm.
can have those feelings, but it's not okay to throw something. It's not okay to hit her. It's not okay. Some families might have the plan where like slamming the door in the home is just not, that kind of, but what
Yeah.
can you do instead, right? Just
Right.
shutting that down without an alternative is not practical, or again, an expectation that is reasonable, right?
So
So
I hear you say that. So naming the feeling
yeah,
is a second strategy, and I hear you say naming the feeling is important because you're saying yes to the feelings, but separating that from the negative action that
right,
has caused the conflict. Like how
right.
do we have it's okay to have feelings, and that's okay, and we name them so you can articulate what's going on, and then what are the appropriate actions or inappropriate actions,
Right.
helping them break those two apart.
Right. And just like we have to do with ourselves sometimes is check in and say maybe what the issue is for my door is opening behind us. I'm rolling.
It's
Okay. Okay. Um, sometimes the issue is checking in with yourself to see where you are, and perfect parenting is not the goal, right?
okay.
Again, a reasonable expectation. It's not a goal, even if it were possible. I think your child needs to see you with that growth mindset as well, and there's a value to repair and all of those things. But if you can check in with yourself, find where you are able to be your best self in that moment, and give yourself some
Mm,
grace and some even and get some time to do the best next step. But again, you're wanting to name um, the feeling that's happening now, and also be aware of maybe what came before, right?
mhm.
Maybe your kids are fighting, if it's siblings or something, and they're arguing about something, but you realize right after you picked them up from school, you went to Target and they didn't want to go to Target, and you bought a toy for a birthday party, that and they didn't get a toy, right? And
Mhm.
they're hungry, and actually, so you're hungry too. Do you know?
I feel like I've had this night before. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking
This is
about.
going to feel very familiar for a lot of
Yes.
people. But so trying to solve he took the iPad,
Mm,
right, is okay. Yeah, we're gonna have some strategies about who has it and how to decide, or whatever, but realize that all those other things are happening too. So
mm,
it's not solve this problem, it's solve, we kind of have to see what the layers that are under there.
mhm,
And that's again, but those are long term payoffs as well, because when you do this and you come up with strategies, what it is, it's not just for that one instance anyhow, right? So if there's,
mhm,
like you said, we were talking about, if you name the feeling, and it's okay to have that feeling, but if you're feeling so upset that you feel like you want to, you really feel like you want to hit something, you can hit this pillow, you can have a punching bag, you can go jump on the trampoline,
yes.
for smaller ones, you can't throw, these balls are for throwing, right? But the very younger ones, we know that they hear the last thing you said. So instead of don't throw this, say, like, this is for throwing, right? Like, don't
Ah,
jump on the couch comes out as they hear as jump on
jump
the
on the couch.
right. So you can say the trampoline is for jumping, right? And they might go over there.
Ah,
That's for the younger ones. For the older ones, that and beyond. And again, and like I said, into adulthood, if we can figure out exactly what the communication we're trying to express, our feelings. Always, we want to have
mhm,
this open dialogue with our children, starting at a young age that continues forever.
Yeah.
And so being able to express their needs, and identify them, and then express them in whatever, different children have different temperaments and different ways to do that, but that it's
Hmm.
safe to do so, is your job one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. And Christy, do you have any last tip or strategy that you want to share?
I would think it is relatable, to conflicts, but also just anytime, when you're
Yes.
speaking with your children. Maggie was very good, even when I described her helping me with the first issue that I came to her about,
Hmm.
but slowing down and kind of check in with where we all are what is our body, well, maybe what do our bodies need, but also
Mm.
you don't have to have the right answer immediately.
Hmm.
Sometimes your calm or just your attention or your intention to be available and to really hear your child is enough to
Mm.
get you to that next step. And
Hmm.
again, that give your the as parents, or the grown-ups can have that grace, and give yourself a little time too, because maybe it's something that you want to check in with, if you have a parenting partner and you want
Hmm.
to go and check in with them, right? This gets into maybe some other kind of, you want to be on the same page. We know that. So you think, gosh, I don't know what to say. You don't have to say it all right then.
Right. And
Don't
it's okay to say to your child, I'm not sure what to say right now.
Right.
Or
I'm
I
gonna
don't
think
know
about
this.
it. What
Yeah.
you're saying is important to me.
Yes.
And so either I'm gonna go talk to, some get back to, let's say it's like a request your child had or something, so we're gonna get back to you. And then you always, that follow through, of course, is gonna do that. But I think
Right.
that was liberating to be able to
Yes.
know, that I didn't have to have all the answers right then. This is a marathon, right? Not a
Oh,
sprint.
yes, it
And so
is.
again, that relationship is most important, and that builds over, all of these, instances of being able to, support your child through them growing their skills to solve conflicts and to have problems and feel seen and heard through all of that and validated. And again, then they're going to continue to be able to, have faith in themselves that they can do that,
Hmm.
as you have facilitated.
I think that is such an important reminder to slow down and give yourself time. And as you said, with the modeling the calm, right? Just slowing down and being calm tells your children that they can also slow down and be
Right.
calm. They can get more time. They don't have to feel pressured in the moment to come up with something. I think that's so wise for the adult and for the child to,
Sure.
just to give time to things,
Right.
and it's hard because everything feels so rushed in our society, these days. We're all short on time. Things happen in transition always, and you want to just
Right.
solve it or fix it and then get to the next thing, but that's unrealistic.
Yeah, but you know what? That brings up another point, because some of these things are happening when you don't have the time, right?
Right.
It is in the car, or it's in the morning before, as you're rushing to get to school, or it's dinner time or bedtime or things like that. But that's also, you don't have to get it all done right then either. You can,
Hmm.
put a pin in it, kind of thing,
Hmm.
in a way that shows respect and validation, to your child. And then when you come back, and maybe that's going to be the moment of a breather that you needed anyhow. I mean, because there's a coping
Mm.
skill of like taking breaths, but then like sort of stepping back from it and telling, like for the younger ones, telling the story of what happened earlier. Like that example I
Mm.
said, to go to Target or something like that. If it's bedtime and you're talking about, wow, when we were in Target earlier today, you and your sister, that it was really hard. It was, we had
Hmm.
a hard time. I wonder what you think about it. It's you're kind of you don't want to put a lot of emotion in it. You want to, invite their
These are
contribution,
facts. There's some
right?
facts. Some
Yes,
things
exactly. Like a
happened.
deliberation,
Hmm.
or right? You're
Hmm.
getting you're getting just the facts, and then but. I think the next time we go to Target, I would like that to go differently. I wonder if you have any
Mm.
ideas of how that could go, and maybe the
Mm.
space between when it happened and talking about it later has brought some insight as well on both sides.
Mhm. Yes, some objectivity can happen a little bit when you have that
Absolutely.
space. Oh, that's beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Christy, for all of
Mm,
your
yeah,
wise
thank
words
you.
and strategies. This is going to
Thank
be so
you.
helpful
It's wonderful to
to
see.
parents, to listeners, to teachers, to educators, to everyone. So I really appreciate you taking the time to
Thank
talk with me
you. I
today.
appreciate you.
Okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Great. Bye-bye.
That was a great conversation. I hope you enjoyed it. I always say that conflict is a healthy part of relationships, and you want children to practice navigating it. That's the only way they're going to get better and be successful in those relationships is if they get that practice at school. Really, school is a great place because there are so many kids and so many opportunities for conflict, but also at home with their siblings, with you. We need children to practice. So I really appreciated that conversation. And here are some of my takeaways. First of all, the concept of taking turns versus sharing to a 2 year old or to a student is not yet at the place of understanding what sharing means. I love that. I think that's a great strategy. Language is so important, and why not use something that's more concrete, like turn taking, versus something that's more abstract, like sharing, for those little people who maybe need a more concrete understanding of what needs to happen. The other thing that I'm thinking about is how children naturally become more invested in navigating conflict as they become more interested in relationships. So, for that young toddler who is all about me and mine, not so interested in relationships yet. They're doing that parallel play, but as they transition into an older toddler into their threes and fours, they want to navigate through conflict so that they can get back to playing, so that they can have fun. And so then they're more invested in doing the work. And so I think, again, tuning into where your child is at developmentally will help you understand what they are capable of in terms of navigating conflict and sort of how they can sit with it. And then the third takeaway is something that we kept coming back to, which is slow it down, find that calm, say, I don't know. And, or, maybe not now, but later. And that later could be in a minute, 5 minutes, hours. It could be hours later. It could be the next day, but that's okay. It's a marathon and it's not a sprint. And so if it's the conflict is feeling heated, or you're not exactly sure all the context, all the pieces, it's okay to take a minute and say, you know what, I'm not sure right now, or I want us to come back to this later. That will help everyone. And not only does it help you sort of get back online and understand where you're at and what your feelings are about the situation, it shows your child that it's okay to take a little bit of time for them to tune into their feelings. So those are my takeaways from this conversation. I really appreciated it. I hope you found some things that were helpful too. Thank you so much for joining me on Parenting Playbook. Bye.